Hi, everyone. Welcome to our table talk. We're back with Pastor Jon.
Hey, everyone.
And this week we're doing the last two gifts we're going to be talking about, prayer and then miracles.
Yes.
So prayer is something we're more familiar with.
In the sense of, again, like we talk about mercy or faith, we're all called into the discipline of this. And so, we talked about that at the beginning of the series, now at the end. And so this is specifically intercession. It's the standing in the gap for others. And we're all called to pray for the world and pray for leaders and pray for our family and pray for pastors and leaders in churches and all sorts of things. But then there are some who, have the snowblower, they have the umph, and pray for extended period of time, or it's pattern in their life.
Okay. And so we just want those people to have the freedom.
Yeah, we want them. And then again, I talked about three styles, the list versus the prompting versus the assignment. And it's really interesting. There's, two dark sides to this. A lot of times prayer people just think this is what the discipline of prayer should look like. And they regularly write off Christians as unspiritual. And just, again, you've got to watch yourself with that. And then intercessors, like I not jokingly said, fight like cats because they think the expression of their gift is the way it's done. And so we've just found, and again, you need to go back and listen to the sermon to understand those three categories, but how those are used well and how they're interrelated matters. And we want people to be free. We want people to be free. We don't want people judging other people. We want more prayer, not less prayer, by discipline and by gift, but also aware of the nuances so we can work well together.
Great. Okay. And then you move into miracles.
Yeah, and miracles basically is authority, patterned authority over death, nature, or the demonic. And it's not the gift of healing. And again, that was an early discovery for us. We were like, first of all, when this all started for us, we called everything weird discernment because we were ignorant. And then we're like, all that wild stuff that, when someone's set free from the demonic, that's a healing. And then we read Paul and he's like, no, miraculous powers is here and healing is here. And we were like, this is two different things. So again, miracles can be used evangelistically. I mean, many times, demonstrations of power over death or the demonic, for example, or even natural things gets people's attention to go, I wonder. But it also can be used to set Christians free who are themselves in bondage.
Right. Okay. And so that's another area to explore.
Yeah, it is. And again, one of the difficulties is you'll never know until you try.
Right.
So, there is this tension. And it's interesting, like in my own walk, this is one of the gifts I actually have related to evil. And again, didn't have time in the sermon, but when someone has the gift of miracles and they're in a context where they're dealing with the demonic, the demonic tend to leave quicker. Not because of the person being more spiritual, but because there's a grace, there's an authority behind it.
Right.
And again, it's not saying only those people can do this. But again, like we've been saying this whole series, we're all called to the discipline of service. But again, if you minister where you're gifted, there will be different effects.
Right.
Of course.
Right. Okay. And so then you gave us a little tour of the importance of power in evangelism.
Yeah, and again, I just want to say to all the Connect groups or others watching this, you've got to go back and listen to the sermon because in Acts 13, there are two different accounts of where miracles, healing, and discernment are used. And it's very profound in evangelism. And actually, the very first person formally in politics in Rome becomes a Christian because of this, right? But also people misunderstanding where the power came from led others to actually say it wasn't the Jewish God found through Christ, but it was Zeus and Hermes. So the lesson for us is not to, conservatives are like, just ignore it all because it could be misunderstood. I'm like, no. We use all the gifts as we're told, but we have to be clear where the power is coming from. I think I said it in the sermon I was sharing with a real estate agent friend of mine, how we miraculously got our house, and it was words of knowledge. And I told the whole story about, it was incredible. And he and his reaction was, that's really weird and incredible. Your wife manifested your house through the universe. And I said, no. The universe, first of all, can't help you. It's impersonal. And my wife manifested nothing. God gave us this, this, and this, and we acted, but he reinterpreted it through his New Age lens.
Sure.
So
sure,
we have
sure.
to, when power is being talked about, not just go, well, the door's now open. We have to go, no, it means this, and it comes from this source. Because we need to get people not to the experience, we need to get people to Jesus.
Right.
But we should not ignore the power either in evangelism, especially in a multicultural, pluralistic, post-Christian, pre-Christian world.
Right.
I mean, let's go.
Right. And sometimes it means there's opposition, like Bar Jesus.
Yes.
And other times it means there's just the misdirection.
Correct. And we just have to walk situation by situation. But like what we were saying, and this would be really good for the Connect groups to talk about. Now we're sort of gone through all of the gifts. I mean, we're going to do 2 other things in the next 2 weeks. Is, do you see why love, word, and power gifts keep the 3-legged stool working? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Why, if we don't, it'd be great conversation in the group. If you were missing one of the categories, what would church look like without one of them? What an interesting conversation. If you had word and power but no love, like actually talk about what it looks like. But then go farther. If you don't have one of them in evangelism, what do you think will happen? And maybe the groups want to talk about their own conversion story. Because people would say, well, then actually that would have left me out. This is why this is way more important than maybe people realize.
Right. And so it's this time in the whole project, 12 sermons in,
Yes.
where we want to be discussing things a little more openly, a little more comparatively.
Yes.
Hey, what about back then? Hey, what about now?
Yes.
And work all those things through.
Right, and what we're about to do next is next week we're going to do a Q&A. Then in 2 weeks we're going to talk about revival and why revival is even different than all of this. And like we said at the beginning, we don't like gift tests here at the beginning or in the middle. We're only okay at the end. And so we're going to talk about how our team has worked to actually build a test for our community so we can actually start responding. And we'll talk about this more, but just to get the group to start thinking now, our goal is to database everyone's gifts. So then when we're like, when we need intercessors or we need people with power or mercy, we can start doing this well and accessing things well.
Wonderful. So there's a lot to look forward to and a lot that you as your group can be preparing for by talking about it, by patting each other on the back and encouraging one another as you see gifts developing, and looking to God to just work all that through.
Yes, and also lay down expectations, embarrassment, fear, because this is the other thing that's happening across our church. There's a lot of people starting to say, actually, I didn't like that. I was afraid of that. I was angry at someone like that. Lean into that. Don't lean away from that, because it's going to give us more unity.
Right. And so through love, we can move ahead.
Yeah, God bless you.
And have a great discussion.